Muses of Mythology is a spoiler-heavy podcast.
That's an understatement.
We're going to discuss not just the events of this book, but the Rhineverse as a whole, and really anything that we feel is relevant. You can find full spoiler warnings in the show notes. My phone locked. I lost my notes.
Did he invent the phone too?
Maybe. Probably. In Percy Jackson, I bet he did. I bet he did.
Alexander Graham Bell was actually Daedalus in disguise. Fun fact.
Welcome to Muses of Mythology, a podcast where we explore how ancient myths become modern pop culture. This week, we continue our journey through Gradians, Percy Jackson, and the Olympians with Story 57, Daedalus. I'm your co-host and podcasting muse, Darian Smart. Joining me is my co-host, brother, and the birthday boy, DJ.
How's everybody doing today? We are recording this on my birthday, and I am the muse of architecture. Let me tell you, modern architecture, not a fan.
And before we start this episode, we got to muse around the garden because I think that's where your birthday cake is at.
Okay.
So we'll be right back in a minute, folks. DJ, for your birthday, I got you something special.
Yeah?
I got us an amazing guest.
You got me a person for my birthday, Darian?
No.
That seems a little problematic.
I got you an experience of getting to speak with former podcaster and struggling grad student, Lochlyn.
Hi, happy birthday, DJ, and thank you both for having me on.
Oh, thank you. Of course.
Lochlyn, we are talking about Daedalus, which is the episode you
Yes.
requested to be on. So to start out with, want to let us know a little bit about what speaks to you about Daedalus, and then maybe just let the listeners know what your deal is. What's your Rhineverse affiliation?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess we'll start off then with Daedalus. So I just think that he as an entity is just so fascinating to me. When I was a kid, I loved to watch How It's Made. I was obsessed with that show. I would sit in front of the TV for hours. Everyone else was watching Glee. I was watching How It's Made. I just loved learning about how everything works and how intricate different processes are of making things that we use every day. And then there are so many things that I'm sure we'll talk about that he invented and all of that. And so I just feel like I just connected with that part of him. And then reading his whole storyline, Percy Jackson, that was fun for me growing up. So yeah, so I just think he's a cool dude. Also, has a little dark side too, which I enjoy as well. So, and then as far as Percy Jackson, I actually first heard about the books from the girl who sat next to me on the bus in elementary school.
I love that.
She was reading the page about the labyrinth with the Persebeth kiss, and I was reading over her shoulder, oh, what's this? Romance? I need to read this. And so I knew that was going to happen then as I started reading all the books for the first time. So I was reading the books to build up to that moment. So I was going in a diehard Persebeth fan before I even knew who they were.
Very seaweed brain of you, yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
Right? Yeah, so that was my introduction to Percy Jackson.
I too was introduced to Percy Jackson by a person sitting next to me on a bus.
Wow. We are just so connected
Just
in that
really
way.
good. I knew you do. And so, if you were in this universe, what would your affiliation be, Lochlyn? Where would you come from? Where would we find you?
Yeah, so I'm thinking these days. Well, when I was younger, I wanted to be a child of Hades. That just seemed very goth, very cool of me. Very niche, right? And now, though, I'm thinking I would be more of a child of Hermes, god travelers. I'm finishing grad school this year in New York. I'll be moving back home for a bit to study. Thank you. Yep. So moving back home to study, to hopefully get my license, and then moving out of that state somewhere else to then start my life. So there's a lot of traveling going on these days. And additionally,
big things.
Thank you. Yes. And additionally, I'm getting a degree within the healthcare field and all of that. So just very much in that whole world.
I love that. Well, let's dive right in. Lochlyn, what do you remember about Daedalus from the Percy Jackson series?
Yes. So I just remember the big twist of when it was revealed that he was Quentin, right? In the fourth book. Yes. And so all of that drama of how everyone thought he was the bad guy, he was the spy at camp, when really he was there trying to help prepare everyone for what was to come. And then obviously the big moment where he gives Annabeth the laptop and everything that then that gives her going forward throughout even the series after that.
I forget the laptop. The laptop is so good. It's just this great thing that, like, I feel like it's never really fully...
It's a great thing, and then you, like, lose it within Mark of Athena.
Yes.
Okay, but she had it for a while.
Sure, but she was also rebuilding Olympus
like...
at the time, and so couldn't really do any of the things that were in it. And it's just, bye.
It was just a magic laptop that was constantly updating its parts.
Yeah. I feel like the only big thing she actually did with it that we saw was when she showed Frank the model of the finger trap. Yeah. That's the only thing I remember her using it for.
Tricked Arachne into making
prop.
Yeah.
I think there's one time we see her going through it hoping there's maybe there's something in the laptop that can help us. And I don't think she actually finds anything that's useful. So it's more of this really great concept and like a really interesting prop to have, but I don't know if anything has ever fully materialized.
She only ever used it for 3D modeling. She probably used it when she was designing Olympus. Just like modeling it in the laptop and then showing the gods like, yeah, this is cool. All right, let's get it going.
It's like how you design theme park rides. Yeah, no, I got it.
Exactly.
No.
Playing Roller Coaster Tycoon every now and again. Who's to say?
Who's to say? You know, Percy has definitely asked her if he can play Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yeah.
What if all she did was just download The Sims and then rebuild Olympus in that?
Just download SimCity and with Olympus God expansions.
Yes.
Yep. No. Okay. No joke. When we redid our living room downstairs and we're going to buy brand new furniture, we did have one of my roommates who loves Sims design our living room with the windows, with the doorways, everything in Sims, so we could look at and figure out where we wanted to put the couch. Where's the best place for the bookshelves? Like what makes it? And then we did that. And it's great.
Yes.
And it's been 2 years and it's still like that. So honestly, yes, absolutely.
I think that's a great idea. I'm definitely going to use that in the future.
Miraculous. Awesome. Yeah, let's talk about it's not Quinted, it's Quintus with an S.
Oh.
I think so.
Okay.
Yes. No, sorry. I didn't mean to say that to correct you. I'm reading a webcomic where a character's name is Quentin. So
I do have the book on my shelf right here if you would like me to confirm.
I've got it.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's Quintus because it's his fifth body.
Yeah, it was more me trying to not accidentally say the wrong Quintus. Yes, with an S.
Okay, Quintus.
Yep. I'm reading a webcomic and the character's name is Quentin, and so my brain was flipping. I'm like, help! So let's talk about Quintus. Quintus, damn it! Who the first time Percy sees him thinks, wow, I've never seen a grown-up demigod before. And can we just talk? I know we did a while ago, but I just need to revisit the Greeks die.
That's such a concerning statement for him to make.
Yeah.
The life expectancy is not great.
No. And then later on we meet the Romans, who there are old people all over New Rome. It actually doesn't have to be this way for demigods. And yet it is at this camp for middle school to high schoolers. It's just they are expected to die. And anyone who doesn't die there's no grown-ups coming back to be counselors at Camp Half-Blood. That's what I would do. That's where I'm spending my summers. Helping these kids not die.
Wild. Just the difference between Camp Half-Blood and Camp Jupiter. Because it's you might, or even New Rome, right? I think it would have been fun to have a similar thing going on with Camp Half-Blood where there was New Athens.
Yeah.
Just had a big fucking city that's just a Greek city.
I mean, I get why we don't. Insofar that it's kids' book. So the trope is you're going to go to the magical place where there's only kids. So it's a summer camp. There's only kids around. It's and to raise the stakes, being a demigod is dangerous. Well, how do you demonstrate that? There's no grown-ups anywhere because you die as a kid. And it's really? Really? Not a single
weak
adult
demigods get culled.
Whoa! And then the powerful ones also get murked.
Powerful ones may go out swinging, but
think it's interesting how when you read The Lightning Thief, it's all like bright and shiny, everything's so cool. And then of course, like as an adult, I can go back and read it and see all the dark undertones. But it just continues to get darker and darker. And you realize like how bad, not even talked about the villains, but just the situation he's in with Camp and all the other kids are in with Camp. But like this inherently is just a very bad situation. Like Stevie Brain's meme recently of like Chiron is a terrible camp leader.
Okay, all right. I'm about to get us canceled from the podcasting community. I actually don't think Chiron is such a terrible teacher. I think he genuinely does his best with the resources he has been provided by the gods, which is not much. Hey, I bet maybe he'd be better if the guy who actually run the camp didn't actively despise all the children on a regular basis.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe if Hestia, rather than just hanging out by the campfire sometimes, like, actually wanted to, like, help support what was going on. Maybe. I think Chiron does his best. I'm not saying his best is good enough, nor am I saying that we can forgive him for the outright nonsense that we have, in fact, seen. But the party ponies do show up and save the day at one point in time, and that is on him. Also, Percy pulled Procrusteus out of his goddamn ass in LA because of Chiron teaching him as Mr. Burner. So
you love bringing that up every time.
It's the most wild thing. It's the most wild thing. There's no reason Percy should remember that, but he doesn't know Athena doesn't have kids. Speaking of, Daedalus is the son of Athena in this book. Discuss.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Well, I was about to say it makes sense, but if he's an inventor, like, invention and architecture really is like two entirely different things, in my opinion. He should have just been a son of Vulcan or Hephaestus. Like, I also understand, like, within the myth of Daedalus, he is an architecture. An architect. He built the labyrinth, and that's what everybody kind of knows him as. And he's like a very smart dude. I think if you wanted him to be a son of Athena, I don't think you should have had him be like this whole like robot automaton building fucking dude.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's just strange to me.
Lochlyn, you had a thought?
Oh, yes. So I Googled right before this fun facts about Daedalus. So I'm going to share one now with you.
I've never thought to do that. Oh, fun facts about... Oh! I'm going to steal that. I love that so much.
Yes.
Okay, please give us a
This is what I do when I forget to do research in advance for any
That's
podcast
okay.
I
did my research this morning.
Yay. I love that we're on the same page. Yes.
I'm so excited.
So there are... So there are conflicting ideas about whether he could be from Crete or Athens, that there are different versions of the myth have different origins. So in the Athenian version, he's from Athens, he gets blessed by Athena, and his main things are his creativity and his brilliant mind. And that's why he would then fall under Athena. So there you go. So then Rick would then be using that to say he's a child of Athena.
Again, I would like... Well, Athena is creative. I would still pin creative more in Hephaestus' territory.
No, I definitely agree with that.
I think that's a great segue into us discussing like Daedalus as he appears in the mythology, and that's like a great example of the big difference because Athena didn't have kids in ancient Greek storytelling tradition.
Yeah,
that's whole cloth something that Rick Riordan invented. And I actually do love that. Have we talked about that? I actually really genuinely think that's a cool concept of Athena has children as this concept of like thought and creation. She doesn't have to physically have like intercourse and then give birth to a child. She can like abstractly like create one with this meeting of the mind thing with a mortal she is like compatible with. And I do think that's
but then
cool.
You like are just sidling a mortal with a kid they never even agreed to in any way, shape, or form. Right.
You need to talk about. It's not the kid's fault, but like,
it's not the kid's fault. It's like
Athena should be using protection. It's what I think on this one.
Or at least discussing beforehand. Are you cool with the kid?
Are
you cool with the kid? It's gonna be yours. We're not gonna have sex. You're not gonna get that. That's an action that's not gonna happen. But we will have a kid.
Someone being like, I'm a grad student. I'm actually not in a place where I can like responsibly or like emotionally care for a kid right now.
Well, here's a kid anyway.
no.
We had a killer conversation. Sorry about it, bud.
But she's a gift, and it's like, okay. No, that's another thing that I feel like doesn't get discussed, and it just, we get to label parents as bad because you didn't want your child. What kind of monster are you?
But he literally did not want.
Yeah. And also, neither did Athena, who just gets to kick kids out. So,
and it's
whatever.
like, here's the thing, right? You gotta know that all of Athena's like partners are absolutely mind fucked when they're like, there's no way this is my kid. They go get a DNA test, and it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's also that thing. Because obviously she's in like smart scientific amazing. People, like when they find out. And also that's kind of like really messed up some like of Athena's like the mortal parents of Athena children, who all of a sudden like definitely were probably highly like intellectual, very like scientifically minded. And then they're just faced with the fact that, by the way, the Greek gods are real. This concept of the supernatural absolutely exists. And then some people are just going to get their brain broken from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some people's minds are definitely broken from that.
And then this kid gets sent to Chiron to deal with that. Like, what's he supposed to do? The gods are not setting him up to succeed. I think it's not Chiron's fault. 100%. It's his fault. I will say 75%.
Is there a secret nursery somewhere at camp where all the Athena kids that the parents, because we're non-gender, whatever, that the parents then couldn't mentally take care of, and they just get dropped off? Like, okay, Chiron, you can let them show up when they're 12 and act like we weren't just hiding other small children here the whole time.
Oh no, they just die probably, right?
I think that's the case. I think a couple of things happen with the baby once they're given to the mortal parent. The mortal parent takes this child and is like, either, okay, I'll raise it, or takes it to like
foster. They get in the foster system. They get in the foster system, and then the monster eats the kid.
Yeah, and so then it's like, I don't think they're making it to camp unless they're getting found, right? Because unless Athena's hand is like, if you don't want this child, take it to this place. And a lot of the times they're like, I'm in Nevada. I cannot be taking a week off to go to New York to drop off this kid at a magic camp.
You can't be taking time off to not have to be saddled with a child you didn't want because you're in a faraway state from a location that would allow this. Interesting. Yes. So no, and also we only just now have satyrs. Actually, I don't know. We have poor little Annabeth, who was 7 years old, that a satyr didn't show up to help her when she ran away, but Athena led her to these other two kids who also, the only reason a satyr showed up was because Thalia was a daughter of Zeus. Like, no one gave a damn about these other two.
Yeah. It's because, they're the children of generally weaker gods.
Chiron is
going to be like overrun by something else, right?
Chiron, I believe, genuinely cares about these kids and wants to see them do well, and he is trapped in a system that is offering no support or resources to do so successfully.
Yeah,
I can appreciate that take.
I think the Norse had it right. The gods come down.
I was so scared to share.
Come down. Hey, here's a fucking weapon. Make sure it's on you when you die. Right? That's just the Norse god.
I know Lochlyn, earlier before we started recording, you said you didn't listen. You haven't gotten to read the Magnus Chase with Jet. So sorry, big ol' spoilers. I'll keep it a little vague. You have one character whose mom literally showed up in person to make sure she had weapons, so when she died, she'd get to go to Hotel Valhalla. So
we have that, and then we have Thomas Jefferson Jr. showing up with fucking like Tyr coming down, like, here's a dragon bone like bayonet. Here you go. And then like when he dies, he just has a dragon bone gun, or a fucking straight up gun with a dragon bone bayonet on it. That's his weapon. And Tyr handed it to him.
Enjoy that, kid. Rad as hell. I think, Norse parents are way more proactive. At least they're equipping their kids with the resources they need to survive in the world that they didn't ask to be born into. That's my hot take.
Thor's got tattoo of the name of children that he doesn't even know if they're alive yet.
Okay, anyway.
Sorry.
So back in this pantheon, I think, DJ, you have a really good point about how if we're going to have if we're having Daedalus be a demigod, Hephaestus does perhaps make the more sense for the physical creation of what he does.
Yeah.
But considering, as Lochlyn mentioned, him being from Athens was very much a late addition to the Daedalus lore.
Mhm.
He was like this concept of this great inventor from Crete existed, and then later writers were like, here are his parents, and you get a bunch of different parents of like varying levels of cultural importance depending on the source. And then after that, Athens was like, no, actually, he's ours. He is from Athens. He's the grandson of one of our great kings. And the only reason he was even in Crete is because he tried to murder his nephew and then had to skip town. But he's totally ours, and we want to claim him. So that like activeness of like Athens, this like city of Athena wanting to claim him, I recognize why Rick Riordan would like gravitate to that, and with his whole she doesn't have to have sex to have kids, so Daedalus could be one of her kids. Like that makes a lot of sense, because otherwise he's just immortal, and in Rick Riordan books you can't be cool if you're immortal. That's just not yet. That's just a rule.
Not yet, at least.
I mean, we have Rachel, and she's like the exception.
But then she has to. Do you spoil for the Percy Jackson books?
Oh,
I guess?
Yes, we talk about everything.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll
talk about anything that's relevant.
But then she becomes the Oracle.
Apollo last couple episodes ago.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So, but then she becomes the Oracle, so she can't just be immortal. You know, she then has to become something else.
Elevated. Yeah, she already has the ability.
She's still immortal when she's the Oracle. The Oracle's still immortal.
Okay,
but she has this other.
She has other powers, sure, but it's still, she's immortal. She will die, and she will be an entirely different situation to.
Yes, but I think I'm on Lochlyn's side. I think she's not a child of Apollo, but
Sally Jackson's immortal.
Yeah, and she's
also a queen among mortals.
She's a queen among mortals.
Yeah, but she's still immortal.
Yeah, but they don't get to like save the world. They don't get to go into Camp Half-Blood. They don't get to be cool part of the story. They get to be cool supportive parents, which is pretty miraculous, all things considered. But
yeah,
Lochlyn, I think I agree with where you're coming from with
Rachel does get a cave
when she becomes Oracle.
Yes. Mm-hmm. What other regular mortal gets a cave within Camp Half-Blood? Only Rachel.
Mm-hmm. This is true.
The cave.
Only Rachel.
Cave life.
And then I think, DJ, we'll have to do another Oracle episode where we really interrogate this concept as it's introduced later on in the series. Because I think there are some early episodes that we can revisit and really expand upon. But we'll do that later. For now,
a parasite.
I can't believe you remember that you said that.
It's because I believe it.
We will revisit that more in depth at a future time. But for now, do we want to talk about some of the stuff that Daedalus invented?
Lay it on me.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously. Actually, Lochlyn, this may be a good time. Do you have another Daedalus fun fact we could throw in?
I do. I'm so glad you asked. So this one excited me quite a bit. He invented the dance floor for Ariadne.
Oh my god, yes! Mm-hmm. That's on my list. It perplexed me so much at this sentence. I spent 20 minutes trying to figure out, what does this mean? So here's what I learned. So it is so this stems from the Iliad.
Mm-hmm.
So Daedalus is mentioned in it. So Ariadne is like name dropped in the Iliad. Later, it's honestly towards the end. I've got my copy here. Here's the bookmark of what I will be reading real quick.
The Ron John Surf Shop sticker.
Oh, it's my Ron John Surf Shop sticker from Orlando. Really fun. Cool place. Classic. Great surf shop. So basically, towards the end, we talked about this a little while ago. Theseus comes to Hephaestus and asks him to create armor for Achilles, which he does, and this includes a shield. And on the shield, and the smith brought... Oh, hold on. I'm reading the Iliad. It is the translation by Robert Fagles. And then shout out to good friend Megs, who helped me find a translation that we could use that resonates with the kind of thing we do on the podcast. So big shout out. All right, and the smith brought all his art to bear on a dancing circle. Broad as a circle, Daedalus once laid out on Knossos' spacious fields for Ariadne, the girl with luscious hair. Here young boys and girls, beauties courted with costly gifts of oxen, danced and danced, linking their arms, gripping each other's wrists. And it goes on to explain like more of like the dancing and stuff. But so, what's dancing? What's the deal? So, I was reading it. Some theories are like, oh, well, that was just how Homer understood the symbols of the labyrinth. from that like older era of like Minoan culture. We talked about this. This stuff like way predates like the era these stories were supposedly taking place in like Greek cultural tradition. So that could be one thing. Maybe it's just the symbols of the labyrinth were interpreted as like this dancing circle, and this was made up with. But there was quite a bit of archaeological evidence to support the theory that actually Minoans were really into dance. Like specifically little figurines of like actually showing circle dancing have been found in tombs and such. And there were like platforms that have like, these are like dating back to the early Bronze era, and like platforms that have been found that have been theorized to be part of like these dancing rituals. So the Minoans are big on dancing. That means Daedalus, as Lochlyn said, basically invented the dance floor so Ariadne could get down with her bad self.
Yeah. So on top of that, I read that, so she had this area where she would go to dance, and then he inlaid white marble in this mosaic pattern to sort of create sort of a guidance for the dancers, but then you could also then sort of build off of that and do your own thing as well and continue to progress the dance.
That's very cool. Yeah, I saw like, oh yeah, Labyrinth. We know that. We've discussed it. Wax and Wings. We talked about that one. Obviously is a big one. The most realistic cow fursuit for not Persephone, God, for Pasiphae. We know these things. The dance floor was what threw me, and I was delighted. Lochlyn, I'm so glad you brought that to the table. Yes. Thank you.
I was so happy to read that. I thought that was very, very neat.
In addition, he is also credited with inventing the art of carpentry, credited by Pliny the Elder in his book, his work, Natural History, where they said, he invented carpentry, including like all of the tools. So like a saw and an axe and wood glue, things like that.
I have a question about this. If he invented carpentry, what were people doing before?
Chiseling it out of stone. What else?
I guess everything. Yeah, okay. Chiseled out of stone. Yeah.
Okay.
They were just leaning planks together.
They went from stonework and they just jumped straight to blacksmithing, and so they had to work their way back to carpentry.
And just fill in that middle space. Yep. Yeah. We talked about when we had our episode about King Minos, which I just went on a fun tangent so I could talk about Minoan culture, how the Minoans had a vast navy. Like, and King Minos was considered the first man to have a navy. And so part of the Daedalus lore is that he actually invented masts and sails so King Minos could have this navy and, like, built it all up.
So Daedalus really is just the guy.
He's just the guy. And it's not just that he could make and invent things and make like practical tools and stuff. He was also an artist who is said to be able to carve wooden sculptures so beautifully that they looked like they were moving, like truly lifelike.
Now this shit started to make me think that Daedalus was actually just the name of a group of people. Right? Like a fucking, I don't know, just an artist union of people. Like, okay, well, because like I understand. Oh man, it's one guy, but if we're basing it off of like actual reality shit, one guy like cannot do fucking everything.
DJ, right? I'm so glad you said that.
Yes, I have. Are you going somewhere with that or?
Well, but no, Lochlyn, if you have another fun fact for us, like yes. I feel like maybe we are on the same thing.
I'm very curious if we're going the same thing.
Yes, go on.
Okay.
Is there evidence that it's a fucking artist union?
Just let Lochlyn go.
So I see what you're saying. I respect that. I raise you Leonardo da Vinci and how varied he was and what he did between art and science and was just all over the board with what he did. In a similar way to how Daedalus is presented of being all across the board as well.
That's a good point.
I would say yes, but a lot of what like Da Vinci did was never implemented in like a real lifestyle. Like a lot of like the Da Vinci creations that we see in like the famous ones, right? They're not like stuff that was practical, just very theoretical.
A lot of concept art. A lot of cool concept art.
Really did. He really was the architecture versus the engineer. Right. And that's what Da Vinci was. And like I wouldn't doubt that, like, we could have Daedalus be the Da Vinci type, where he is the architecture of a lot of things, but he probably also had people helping him implement it, right? There's like, oh, well, maybe we could make masses, but I don't know who's to say, like, if this is going to work. And then we had another guy that's no longer gets named who actually built the fucking thing.
Mm-hmm. No, I think you both make good points. It is uncommon for someone to be so
I also
diverse.
just think, like, the time, right?
Yeah.
It's a
but
little hard. It's harder to be that varied with as little tools as Daedalus had.
I do think that, like, Leonardo da Vinci is an excellent example. I mean, but also, like, Ada Lovelace, who designed computer programs essentially before we had computers. Like, there are remarkable people who can come up with incredible things that we can't put to use practically yet. But DJ, in your comment that, like, maybe Daedalus was just a bunch of craftsmen, I think that there are theories that maybe suggest that at least the idea of Daedalus maybe becomes from a collective almost. Yeah. So the name Daedalus, it, like, translates to, like, skillful, which is interesting because usually these names don't have such clear cut, like, what we know it means. And so oftentimes, like, in ancient Greece, like, craftsfolks would have, like, that would be a name that a lot of, like, Greek inventors and creators would use as, like, not like a title or a name they would take on for themselves because they had incredible skill. And there was a festival called the Daedalus in which, like, a wooden altar was built and it would carry a woman who acted as, like, a bridesmaid, and this was like a festival to Daedalus. But there are some theories and some evidence that suggests that this festival, this thing, maybe actually predates the figure of Daedalus, who was first referenced in, like, the Linear B tablets on, like, the 1400 BC. That he actually, they began calling this figure Daedalus after these traditions, and they aren't, and not the other way around. So in conclusion, no, Lochlyn, you and I actually turned out we were not on the same path at all, but I still had fun.
No. But I think we both brought very interesting things to the table.
Yes.
Food for thought, one could say.
Food for thought. Yeah. So it could be, but yeah, I think on the thing of the statue, like, at least DJ, there was a 2nd century Greek, like, traveler and geographer named Pausanias, who traveled around. Obviously, that was his whole deal. And he credited a lot of, like, archaic wooden figures as being like, yep, Daedalus made that. Yep, Daedalus made that too. Yep, Daedalus made that too. So the hunch of, like, hey, this maybe was a bunch of people who that probably wasn't incorrect. That maybe when you get to this spectrum of time so far out, that these things are so old, you start to have folks be like, Daedalus must have built that. He was the amazing inventor from the ancient era.
I was like, I get Greek mythos just, like, explaining things in the world, but man, come on.
At least some of these things had to be signed, right?
Vary it, like, one guy, but not even, like, Hephaestus did it. Like, if it was like Hephaestus was inventing it, just tossing it down to the humans, that's fine. He's a god. But it's like, here's a mortal man doing fucking everything.
And that's why the Athenians had to claim him.
There are only so many years in mortal life.
There's so much time.
So much time.
So, I think we got to talk about the nephew murder. Because it's kind of a big thing. Yeah.
Just killed his nephew. Jealous.
Jealous.
It'll do that to you.
Yep. This is something we see in the Percy Jackson books. I feel like it's implied that it takes place after he escapes from King Minos and the labyrinth, because it's shown after we see Icarus dying.
Yeah.
Yes.
But, I mean, obviously timeline is wonky, and it depends on the order we're going to tell these stories. But if we're going for the account that the Athenians really put forward when they want to be like, nah, he came from our town. This took place before he went to Crete, and is the reason he went to Crete.
Yeah.
So Daedalus's big thing was like, yes, he's this incredible inventor, and also just really couldn't stand the idea that anyone could be half as good as he was.
Mm-hmm.
What a jackass.
Yeah. And apparently this was a trait that his sister didn't know or understand the depth of, because she decides to send her son, his nephew, in his care. Like, hey, go spend the summer with your uncle. He will tutor you. You're a smart kid. Your uncle's a genius. He will help you grow and develop in your intellectual pursuits. And that didn't go super great for the kid, Perdix, who invented the saw after he found a fish spine washed up on the shore, and then turned around and also invented the compass. It's a great afternoon for him. And then so Daedalus gets mad jealous and throws him off the Acropolis in Athens.
Big yikes on
Just
that one.
Ridiculous.
Just throws him off. Fortunately, Athena shows up and saves the kid by, sending a bunch of birds to catch him and land him safely. And in some stories, it's a cloud catches him and cradles. No, I'm kidding. She turns him into a bird, a partridge, and that's
a partridge and a pear tree.
A pear tree, and that's the cool way gods like to save humans. They'll just turn him into an animal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the animal was created. And then they reproduced like fucking wild.
So, I don't know word on what the sister felt about the whole my son is a partridge thing. But Daedalus does in fact get tried for murder, found guilty, and does have to skip town. And that's how he ends up in Crete, working for Minos, building fancy fursuits for queens, and then elaborate labyrinthine prisons for monsters.
Yes. There's something about Daedalus' personality of how he needs to be the only one, and how dare anyone else try to match his ability, that almost makes me think of Elon Musk. With how he, when he took over Tesla, he made the original founders sign contracts that they could never claim that they were actually the founders. Like, he just took over that position, and like, you can't have anyone say that you're as good as me. Like, I did all these things. I did everything possible. I don't know.
Yeah, I do think that is an interesting, probably like, there's a reason that Daedalus, this figure, has this character flaw, because I think you're exactly right. It is a character flaw we often see in these folks who are incredibly like skilled or capable or stuff. I think we also see this in like various athletes oftentimes who are adamant that no one could be half as great as they are at any time, no matter what happens. And it is troubling, I think, that humans have this capability where we feel threatened by greatness that we don't own, rather than often, if we are great, inspired or excited at the prospect that someone can build off of what we've done and do more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's especially problematic when you have those feelings to the point of preventing others from doing things that could help society, or then like physically attack them, like in this case. Or
like throwing them off the Acropolis in Athens. Yes, I think that's I think
dude made the compass. The absolute
I think it's
most
slightly
integral
problematic
thing to fucking travel.
I agree. I think jealousy that turns into murder based on it is very problematic. Yes, I will sign off on that as well. I feel like the interesting about this is that we've talked so much about like elements of Daedalus' story in previous episodes that it feels like we're leaving a lot out right now. But like, why rehash the labyrinth? We've done Theseus the Minotaur and the labyrinth episodes.
Yeah.
Like, we could talk about the shell and stuff, but I'm pretty sure we talked about that in our Ariadne episode. Like, there is very interesting things that we have discussed already. So that's the interesting obstacle, I think, in doing our show, is that I don't want us to repeat ourselves so much. And I don't have anything new to add on those from the perspective of Daedalus.
I could talk about how he's portrayed in Circe by Madeline Miller. also
oh my gosh,
famed author of Song of Achilles.
Let's swing right into examples in pop culture. Let's just go. I love it. Lochlyn, thank you so much. We have not gotten to talk about Circe yet because I still haven't read it.
Oh my goodness.
So
well then.
What's he like in Circe?
So minor spoilers then, I suppose, for you for this book.
Yes,
so
that's fine. I've had my chance.
Yes. So what I remember from reading this book, out of all of the men that Circe comes in contact with throughout the novel, he is the only semi-good guy. Keeping in mind he did kill his nephew. But she's seems to have the best relationship with him, and that it is a very intellectual relationship. Like, they seem to really respect each other. Whereas, like, Odysseus and all the other men don't value her or really respect all the power that she really has. So I thought that was an interesting way to go with him as a character in that sense.
Is it, I haven't read it, is it like because she has this power, she's got like the magic, like the sorceress and stuff, is that what he's recognizing as? And I know because I've read early in the book, she talks about like, before me there was an award for what I was. So is that the element that like Daedalus is seeing as like her as a groundbreaker in her own field?
Yeah, and then a lot of also she deals with, I guess, like what you might see as like modern interpretations of witchcraft and the ways that she is able to like protect herself alone on this island, because like, yes, she was put there by the gods and it's her prison, but also like men can come to the island and do the things that then happen in those situations. So she's having to figure out all these different ways to protect herself, and that uses some spells in a sense. I don't think that's the right word for it, but sort of along those lines. Like, so like he can recognize that power in her, but then also respect like who she is as a person as well.
That's really cool. I definitely couldn't find a lot of examples of Daedalus specifically showing up in like modern tons, which is a problem we're coming across more and more. I'm finding.
Are you getting too niche?
A little bit. I think that is the problem. It's Ariadne. Yeah, we got a lot of modern storytellers putting Ariadne in their comic books. Yeah, you're not wrong on that. So I thought we could expand it. Unless DJ Daedalus in video games? Anything?
Well, let me see if there's any.
I mean, more like if you know of one.
I know there's one right here off the top. It's from. It just simply references it by name alone. It's called the Daedalus Stormbow from the game Terraria.
Okay.
What it used to do, they've changed it now, or at the very least they've nerfed it into the ground. Bows, typically you shoot an arrow, it comes from the bow. The Daedalus Stormbow would make it rain arrows right on your mouse, and it would shoot like 5 to 10 arrows for one arrow. And it was kind of rude. They've now nerfed it.
It was kind of rude.
It was dirty. You could go from like the start of hard mode all the way through like the golem. That doesn't mean much to you guys if you haven't played the game, but if you have, you know what it means. They did nerf it to where it only does like 3 arrows instead of as many as it used to.
Okay. So it's like it's so that one is not like Daedalus shows up. It's like Hades. We never meet Hades. We never meet Daedalus in the game Hades, but Zagreus often runs into like the Daedalus hammer, which can improve the weapon he's using and add like a ton more cool stats and things like that. And that's a good feature of like what if he could hand it to Daedalus, what Daedalus would do with it. Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. He doesn't actually come up an awful lot, I feel.
No, I don't think so either, which is why I figured, hey, you know what would be fun? Let's expand it a little bit and talk about inventors from pop culture, because I think there are some fun ones, and figure out if we can identify if they fall under here's the game, essentially.
I love games.
Is Daedalus an archetype for inventors in storytelling? So as we discussed earlier, how oftentimes you have this character that's like so creative, larger in life, and threatened by the idea that anyone is better than them. We see that in real life, but there's also a factor in storytelling. Do we think that this is a template that we are building on, or is maybe the inventor often so different than how we see Daedalus portrayed that it maybe is actually coming from somewhere else? Do y'all know? Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking for like an archetype of Daedalus?
Kinda, yeah, or if this is one. So the inventor, and I almost say inventor / mad scientist. Because I feel like when you go into mad scientist, you start to, like, ethics are optional. And I would say Daedalus says ethics are optional a lot.
That's the first thing he says when he wakes up in the morning.
It's on his, he's got the sticky note on his mirror. Ethics are optional. Because the ethics of helping Pasiphae with her romance issues, mayhaps.
I have one in the chamber.
Okay, would you like to go first?
Yeah, why not? I think this will be a fun. The toy maker from Spy Kids 3D Game Over, played by Sylvester Stallone and Sylvester Stallone and Sylvester Stallone and Sylvester Stallone.
No, yeah. Okay. All right. I see your... hold on. I see your toy maker from Spy Kids 3 and raise you Romero from Spy Kids 2, played by Steve Buscemi, who creates this wild island of lost dreams with all of these creatures running amok.
Here's the difference that I would pin, right? Is Romero cared about ethics. When we saw that in his character, he deeply regretted this and what he's done.
Interesting. The
toy maker does, at the very least, like, really didn't until he got the apology from the grandpa.
Right. Until the apology makes it all. I'm sorry, makes it better. Yeah, because Romero has a whole line of like, do you think God stays in heaven because he's afraid of what he's created?
Do you think God stays in heaven because he too fears what he created?
And I think Daedalus is over here being like, bitch, I am God.
Yeah. Definitely.
All right, DJ, I see you. On the toy maker. Lochlyn, okay. I'm thrown. Lochlyn,
okay. Okay. I see your Spy Kids choices, selections, and raise you Max from the Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl, and that he invented this whole world within his head, which at times did get very, very dark. You know, he created this hot girl that he was attracted to. Hot boy also, you know. Yep.
Max,
pretty ice princess girl.
Have to work out in college, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, Max has some things to work through.
Yeah,
Max is pretty good.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Lochlyn. Hold on, Lochlyn.
Yes.
Yeah, if you would like to finish, Lochlyn, please.
Yeah, please finish, because I see the chaos is still coming.
Yeah.
Separately, though, this is completely separate. When I Googled this movie to remind myself of the character's name, I learned that Shark Boy and Lava Girl are both played by actors named Taylor.
Oh, I didn't know that. How interesting.
And I would like to remind everyone that Taylor Lautner did, in fact, marry a Taylor last year.
Nice.
He did.
And I love that
I
chaos.
Couldn't do that. That would perplex me, but good for them. I'm glad they're happy. Someone has to go by Tay, right?
Took his last name, and
yes.
now they're both Taylor Lautner.
I think she goes by Tay-Tay.
Tay-Tay, yeah, good for them. I'm glad. I hope they're happy together. All right, DJ, I'm almost afraid, but go on.
From the hit cartoon from the 90s and early aughts, the Powerpuff Girls Mojo Jojo.
Interesting. So this is actually a thought I had, not about Mojo Jojo specifically. My thought was actually about Iron Man and Batman. Sorry, I had to really think about what I had just said, and it sent me into a minor existential spiral about what is my life. Okay, I'm back in. So I was wondering, with the Daedalus comparison, oftentimes we're very broad, and we have to like narrow it down to make it work. So when when we're discussing like inventor who perhaps is Daedalus archetype, I thought like, oh yeah, Iron Man, Batman,
I'm just
amazing.
Pulling up fictional characters that I think are fucking funny as shit. Honestly.
I know what you're doing, DJ, and I appreciate that because it allows me into the segue into discussing. I think what makes Daedalus different from a Mojo Jojo or a Batman or a Tony Stark is that he is not the hero nor the villain.
Mm-hmm.
He is not. I mean, he killed his nephew that one time, and that was bad.
Yeah,
but he didn't use his inventions to create a contraption that kills his nephew. He just pushed him off the Acropolis in Athens. And later on, he does like build his waxen wings to escape, but he doesn't then continue to use the waxen wings to fight crime throughout ancient Greece. Like, he is not, I think, what you would call a Greek hero in the same vein as like Atalanta or Hercules or Theseus.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so that's what I would think makes you have the inventor who is hero or villain, but Daedalus is not. I don't think Daedalus falls into that kind of thing because he makes his things for other people, like save for the wings. He's not making those things to empower himself. And I actually do think that's very interesting now that I'm saying this out loud. He doesn't use his gift for power, right, or control necessarily. He just is this creator. He's like the person that gets to take credit for why more powerful people have access to these amazing things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then Jimmy Neutron.
I would also like to add to the table Dr. Draken from Kim Possible.
I was trying to commit evil with Dr. Draken.
Yeah, but I do think we need to name him at least a little bit.
100%.
Yes.
It'd be wrong. As someone who hosted Kim Possible podcast, it'd be wrong.
Yes, I thought you would appreciate that.
Cool. Oh, thank you, Lochlyn. Oh, a gift for me. It's not my birthday. It was my birthday. I mean, speaking of my other podcast, That's the Sitch, I had to do this one for my dear co-host, Robert Gamer. Doc Brown from the Back to the Future trilogy.
Yeah.
I think he's got a lot of
he's just having a good time with his own gift, and he's not.
Yeah, he's just making shit because he's smart, incredible stuff. I also think that perhaps a little bit Doc Brown subscribes to the ethics are optional thing. Well, he has never killed his nephew.
Oh, yeah.
He was mayhaps doing business with terrorists to get plutonium.
Yeah, but he needed the plutonium.
But also,
but later
Daedalus
on,
murdered his nephew. So, like, potato.
Yeah. Potato.
Right.
Later on, he is actually able to use garbage, it seems like, to power the flux capacitor. So clearly, we were a few steps away from not having to do business with the terrorists. So, also, it's plutonium, which is incredibly dangerous, and you just, like, have that in your garage. So, my guy, I think he's great. I think Doc Brown is very fun. I also think he says ethics are optional. So I would put him as a Daedalus archetype. And the fact that Marty McFly survives the whole series is amazing. Not to say he would murder him, but I'm saying maybe we were in an Icarus situation. I think there's a lot of characters who are, like, there's tons of characters who are inventors, right? But, like, for example, I would say, like, Donatello from a lot of iterations of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He is the inventor. He makes the things they all use. But I would not say he gives me Daedalus vibes. So I'm trying to figure out what is it about a character that's like, yep, that's a Daedalus right there. And not just, that's our super genius. That's our inventor.
Yeah. I will put forward Alan Bradley, the lead programmer and creator of Tron.
Oh. Is that the character in Tron? Not Tron.
That's the character in Tron. And he also plays Tron, right? And
No.
Tron is yes.
Who's the guy?
Kevin Flynn. Clue.
Thank you. Thank you. That's right.
played
That's
by
the guy.
Jeff
I was
Bridges,
getting
but-
them. I was Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
I was getting them confused. Thank you, DJ.
Alan Bradley, he's played by Bruce Boxleitner.
Okay.
I think that's how you pronounce that.
What?
He-
Okay. What
he
is it about
coded
Adam
Tron.
Bradley? Yeah. What is it about Adam Bradley that is specifically Daedalus-esque? You think?
He wasn't trying to. I mean, he might have. I haven't seen the movie in God knows how long.
It's kind of boring.
He wasn't trying to do anything super nefarious with it. He was just making a security system,
Mhm.
and that security system also happened to be a fucking AI.
No, I guess that's a good point. Because it doesn't
Right.
feel like when you talk about Daedalus, and even when he's a whole like, I invented carpentry and also mast and sails for a navy, he's not inherently, or even when you talk about the Pasiphae fursuit and the labyrinth and Ariadne's
Yeah.
dancing floor, there's nothing inherently like nefarious for what he's not like creating things to see, like he's not making Jurassic Park, right? Like
Yeah.
he's not like trying to push the bounds of what is or isn't. 'Cause I was wondering if like Victor Frankenstein makes sense. Victor Frankenstein, who was not a doctor, he dropped out of medical school.
Mhm.
And his whole like creating the creature, like I'm trying to like be better than the gods and like take this power of life and death into my hands. Like that is very mad scientist. So I'm almost like maybe my comment earlier about let's bring in the mad scientist almost is incorrect in this conversation about Daedalus, at least insofar as we're discussing him as he appears in like the Greek storytelling traditions.
Yeah.
Because he just made cool shit, but he was never doing anything that is at odds to the natural order of how the world is perceived. But we do see that in the Ryan books where he steals his nephew's cool idea and then starts making robo-automaton bodies for himself. And that is inherently to prolong his life because he doesn't want to die and get sent to eternal punishment for the whole nephew murder. And then, well, now King Minos is a judge, so I got to deal with that shit.
Ugh, fuck.
He's going to hold a personal grudge. Justice ain't blind in the underworld. So it is okay. That's it. That's the archetype. You have an inventor who's not necessarily trying to
Who's just
cause mass destruction, who's making cool shit because they are good at what they do, not necessarily because they're not out to kill God or something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I would like to bring one other candidate to the table,
Please.
if I may.
Yep. Please.
Dr. Doofenshmirtz.
Doofenshmirtz,
Classic.
Evil Incorporated.
Yes.
He's always
In
he's trying to use it for nefarious deeds, but he can never succeed with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my question then. Because he never actually succeeds because of Perry, can he really
I
be
think the
evil?
intent is
Also,
there, though.
but also a lot of things he's trying to do aren't actually evil. Like he's trying to get rid of like lines at the supermarket. He's trying to like build a giant vacuum cleaner. Like
The thing
is it truly evil?
I would say no. However, we did see the universe where Perry got hurt, and so Doofenshmirtz went unchecked, and that is the movie.
Okay, so he
That
does
is true.
potentially. He has
That
maybe
is
the
true.
capacity for evil, but
he can
I
never-
would say
he
most
can never
of us
realize
do.
it.
I would say maybe perhaps most folks do have a capacity for good or for evil, and there are other factors in our life that come into play on whether or not those things are realized. We
Yeah.
also know Doofenshmirtz is a good dad. Is a very good dad.
He tries his best to be a
He
good
tries his best,
Yes.
and he's not the perfect dad, but he is active. You know, I've seen there are Tumblr posts. You've all seen one, I'm sure, that talks about the cycle of childhood trauma, how his parents were incredibly neglectful for him, how he goes out of the way to not do that for his daughter Vanessa. How one time a guy catcalls her, and I think he turns that man into an ice cube.
I think he dehydrates him. Yeah.
Yep,
Yes.
he hits him,
Yes.
and I stand by that wholeheartedly.
No, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
I think
I saw
Doofenshmirtz, is dealing with these things in the way he can, and they're all very remarkable. And he's again also not trying to go fight God or anything. Not trying. He never tries to bring anyone back from the dead. So I think that's a
Yeah.
big one.
He did try. He did fuse his pet cockroach and ice cream, and that was a little horrifying.
I've
but Daedalus did build that super realistic fursuit for Pasiphae. So
Oh no, yeah.
we're talking about horrifying.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty one-to-one comparison.
Yeah, right.
Yes, thank you.
I'm gonna put forward
Okay.
Jack and Maddie Fenton from Danny Phantom. They're just inventing shit to get ghosts.
Yes. Yes, I would say Jack and Maddie Fenton from, not wrong.
Mhm.
And then they're not using it to empower themselves or empower Danny's
they
a
just
side
wanna,
effect.
Danny is a side effect.
They're just really fascinated with ghosts, and they're using technology to create and learn more. Absolutely. Jack and Maddie Fenton are modern Daedaluses. We did it. We did it, dear listeners. Lochlyn, thank you. DJ, thank you.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. We've done it. That's it. That's the episode.
It took a long time, but we finally got there.
We finally got there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
isn't that what invention and creation is about? You have to be willing to put in the work, willing to try things, to test it out. You know, we saw the fursuit that won Best in Show at the Masquerade. We didn't see the other attempts of Daedalus trying to hone his craft to get to that point. You know, it's all about trial and error.
Exactly.
You don't start out incredible. You have to sucking at something is the first step at being kind of awesome to something. So stick with it. And
Absolutely.
ethics are optional.
Woo.
Man, someone's gonna isolate that, and then I'm gonna get canceled. I'm sure.
It'll be fine. Ethics are always optional. What do you want about?
All right. I feel that the time is coming. But before we accept and embrace the inevitable, DJ Lochlyn, is there anything else Daedalus-wise that we got to talk about before we escape the labyrinth?
Double D from Ed, and Eddie. He's just a very smart guy being led astray by Eddie.
Eddie is King Minos.
Eddie is King Minos.
Oh no, we did it! Eddie is King
Eddie is King
Minos.
Minos.
go.
Ed is the Minotaur. Double T is Daedalus.
Oh my god, DJ, you can't just throw this at you do this all the time. You always do this at the end of the episode. We can't. We just have to leave now. We have to take that thought and leave it here in the library.
That's for your listeners to figure
I
out for
impart
themselves.
on you, listeners.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Who?
That's DJ's gift
What
to you.
other Ed and Eddie characters can we relate to? Other Rolfus Hercules. You know the works.
We're leaving now. We are escaping from this place.
Yes. Yes.
All right, Lochlyn, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. You know, I'd just like to finish out by saying, thank you for having me. Of course. Remember, don't let the gods be your limit on what you can do in this life. If you want to invent carpentry, do it. Who cares if someone else did it before you? Take that and claim it for yourself. Retcon everything that's ever happened.
Retcon everything. Fabulous.
I am the inventor of the S-22 bomber that we use.
Okay. All right. That's a thing DJ wants to take credit for. Sure. I would have done.
I invented napalm and all atrocities that come with it.
And DJ gets a
Operation
pass.
Rolling Thunder, that was me, babe.
DJ gets a pass because it's his birthday.
There you go.
Lochlyn, is there any call to actions you'd like to give our listeners? Anywhere they could find any work that you have on the internet that you are proud of and believe the world should embrace?
Any work that I'm proud of? You know, the fact that I'm still here day to day getting my degree. That's what I'm proud of. But anything that you could seek out. So here we go. My thing I would like to recommend you seek out because have I contributed much to the world? No, I haven't at this point in time. Like I said, struggling grad student. So give me 10 years. Grad student. Yes. So, what I would like to recommend people seek out is this beautiful novel, since we were earlier talking about cool women, aka Circe. It's called KKE by Vishnavi Patel. This beautiful story about Kiki, a being from the Bhagavad Gita, I believe. Story. Oh no, the Ramayana.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So she is a badass sorceress, taking people down.
Perfect.
Yes, and that she can control connections between herself and other people and manipulate them to get further along in life.
Interesting.
That sounds super cool. Yes, listeners, there will absolutely be a link in the show notes. So if you're like, what was that book Lochlyn recommended? I can't remember. You can come back to the episode and click it. It'll be right there for you. I'll send it to the Goodreads page, I'm sure.
Yes.
I think that is it for us. DJ, should we tell them yet? No.
No.
Not yet.
It'll be fine.
We'll tell them later. We'll tell them later. All right.
Don't worry about it, guys.
Yeah. So for now, I'll just say, Lochlyn, thank you again for joining us. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. We will be back in your ears on Tuesday, April 11th to finish out season 4 of the podcast by talking about Pan. DJ's got big feelings. Be prepared.
Big feelings on Pan.
But until then, don't be like Zeus.
Don't be like Zeus.
Muses of Mythology is created and hosted by Darian and DJ Smart. It's edited by Darian Smart. The show is produced by Darian and DJ Smart, as well as
Tim O'Connor, the Crystal Con Man. Our music is Athens Festival by Martin Hain, and our cover art is by Audrey Miller. You can find her on Instagram at bombshellnutshellart.
Want more Muses of Mythology? Support the show on Patreon. Just $1 gets you exclusive bonus content. Get more at patreon.com/Muses of Mythology.
You can also support the show by leaving a review at lovethepodcast.com/Muses of Mythology, or tell a friend why you love the show.
Don't forget to check out all of our episodes and episode transcripts at musesofmythology.com.
Thanks for listening.